really is very important to have the foundations right. I did my undergraduate in South India, and apart from all the technical foundations, some of the things that India has taught me is the adaptability, right? The world is changing really fast, and that is not something you can just read a book and get it. You have to go through the experiences, and right from childhood and undergraduate really helped me to be ready for those things. Now, then I built a perspective about India and all those things. Then I moved to US. I did my master's there. A completely different culture altogether, completely different way of learning things as well, right? But you know what? My foundations have taught me how to adapt in the first place. So I flourished, I would say, going there. And I also got the best of the worlds and built a different perspective after that, right? And US is a very interesting country. There's diverse cultures as well there. So that really helped set me up for what that was going to come next. And that is the technology transformations, right? And in technology industry, you've got to be ready to adapt and grow and evolve. Otherwise, you'll be left behind really fast, right? And you would have probably seen several of those examples. So that's the fundamental part. Now, coming back to India, what I have noticed is there's been tremendous growth in India, but you guys know this better. But what that has done is that has given a lot of exposure to our techies in India. And exposure in terms of different products, consumer products, enterprise products, infrastructure stuff, right? And that's kind of what experience that we at Uber are actually looking for, like what we need. And we leverage that as such. And that's what I would say, and I'm really excited about like building our tech centers in India and actually building different products, infrastructures, platforms as such. So.
Excellent. What I take from what you said is about the adaptability, that India offers for those who have lived here and had their, sort of formative years here. That's from one melting point to pot to the other, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah, so great. Ankit, what do you think is the secret sauce for India, producing world-class talent? I mean, what is it that you think really prepares an Indian engineer to, kind of render himself or herself as world-class eventually? Your take.
I think there have been quite a few factors that have shaped the Indian tech talent in the last decade or so. There have been significant advancement in e-commerce industry in India, where the engineering talent has been exposed to problems of scale, problems of building digital products, and I would say technology-first products. And that mind shift, the shift in the mindset that has come in has shaped the entire industry in a certain way, where people are able to think about how do I build for scale, for consumers, for people who are trying to find a solution which will digitize, which will make it the whole experience for them seamless. If you see some of our colleges, that they have accelerated different kinds of programs about building apps for consumers as hack days and things like that. And all of those different factors combined with the advancements in cloud computing, where we have democratized technology in a way, where you don't need to know the foundational infrastructure components, like how does some hardware work and things like that, and you focus on building products on top of it at scale again, which is a key over here. And that democratization has led to more and more engineers learning quickly, learning fast, and being able to understand various trade-offs that it requires to build products like these across different industry domains as well.
Sure. Yeah. Cloud computing definitely has changed the game and has democratized technology in a way that's made it much, much simpler for even the non-tech folks out there. So yeah, aptly said. Mayank, if I may ask you, so top academic institutions in India, so you've kind of gained your stripes out from these toppies. So what is it that you can sort of send out as a message, to people who have actually kind of come out of some of these institutes? Is there like, if I may say, something that they know better or that they have earned better, or does it become a level playing field once you set out to work overseas?
That's a loaded one.
Go for it.
Yeah. I think the way I think about this is that, so I did my bachelor's and master's at IIT Delhi And then I worked for a good amount of time here in India, both at some sizable companies and at startups. And it's just the fascination for technology and some of the work that I was really interested in took me to the States. The key thing that I've seen happen in India, and that I would sort of encourage further, is that back in the day, India was known or sort of recognized as the back office of the world with respect to technology. That we had this brand that, hey, we are good programmers, we are not great leaders or thinkers. But I think over the last 10 years or so, that narrative has just completely changed the other way around. Like today, today people are, the level of innovation that is happening here, even speaking just about Uber, our most ambitious projects are getting not just executed, but seeded here, conceptualized here, which is outstanding. And the brand that both Indian engineers have created here is that today we are literally leading the world from the thought here. There is this one characteristic that really inspires me about when working with folks here is there is this can-do attitude that is there, that people are not afraid of failing. People their first approach to even the hardest of the problems is, yeah, we'll do it. We can do it, and which is so inspiring and refreshing to see in this space.
Absolutely, I think this whole narrative of just being programmers to emerging as leaders, I think that's been a phenomenal journey that India has taken.
Yeah.
And even outside of even if the talent jargon as well. So that's really heartwarming, and it leads me to the very next question to you, Praveen. As Mayank rightly pointed out, India was for the longest time known as the back office, of all work that can be done at a fraction of a cost, and so on and so forth. And from there to coming to the forefront of the narrative, how do you really see market as a direct variable to, as a source to talent? And also, how does this kind of tie back to all the work that that you're foreseeing for the near future for Uber? And also for driving mobility as one of the core focus areas. So all yours. How has the journey been?
No, I think so. As Mike aptly said, well, I say this all the time. Any company who thinks they can only do back office work in India is frankly they're just missing it out. Right? They're missing out on the huge potential. Right? There's something with Uber 8 years ago when we started. Right? We started in a humble way, small. Now we are about 1,500 plus techies. And we have different functions, not just engineering. We have PMs, science, design, TPMs, because all these are needed to actually build a good product, right? It's not just engineers as such. So it's a techie world as such. And we have always invested in different areas, like as I said, core products. I can give you a few examples, like Uber Bus, that, I don't know, have you used bus in your childhood? Like I've used bus in my childhood. I can't guarantee, forget about seat, I can't even guarantee a standing space in the bus.
Yeah, so, not in India.
Of course. That product is actually built in India, right? And we have launched that product in Delhi and Mumbai, and we have big expansion plans coming up. And it's a pretty complex tech problem. Like we guarantee you a seat in first place when you book it. And second is, we use the same tech for the drivers, which routing and ETS. So we guarantee you the reliability that when we say 10 o'clock the bus comes, at 10 o'clock the bus comes for you. And the third is the payment option. So it's not like you're going to find this conductor in the bus to get your tickets and so forth. Like it's all pretty seamless experience. Like all these are tech-driven solutions that has made this happen. And what's more proud is that work is actually happening in India, not just engineers, the PM, science, all the folks are here, right? And we're going to take that now and scale it globally, right? That works. Similar thing on intercity, right? And then I can go into very deep details about the innovation that happens. And then coming to core platforms, like Mayank will talk about the core earner platforms that we are actually building in India. And then core infrastructure, like data infrastructure that actually powers all this stuff. This all happens in India. And I had a belief long time ago that in India, it's not this homogeneous one way of doing. We can actually do multiple things. And the only reason, again, I go back to the adaptability of people, like how they can come and learn as such. So that's that. And then the edge in mobility, right? I mean, Uber is pretty prevalent in India, right? Our engineers, our techies here really feel the product here, and they want to make a difference. And we enable that, right? And now goes back to this theme of what you are saying. They solve the problems here, and then we take these solutions and deploy it across the world, and it becomes a global solution, right? So, as I said, if other companies don't want to use it, we are very happily using the potential of India here.
Sure. It's interesting what you brought up about the Uber bus, actually, because essentially, traditionally, even the autos and the, the taxis were considered unorganized sector in India, and to kind of change the game there, and to now talk about the bus, I think that's a long call, and that's very interesting. I'm quite intrigued to see how that shapes up democratically over a period of time.
I think the point there is, the infrastructure in India is not keeping up its pace. But the mobility needs are actually, it's a pretty high demand, right? And there are multiple solutions. Governments are building transits for helping. Our solution is actually helping to bring one product where multiple people are in the car together. And that helps to alleviate the congestions and so forth. So that's bus is one of our products.
Excellent, excellent. Yes.
No, I'll just add to something that
Sure,
Kevin was
please.
talking about. That when talking about Uber, we often talk about the riders and the drivers and these products. But there is this other part of Uber that we actually work with cities very closely on problems like congestion, on what are the routes that buses should be taking and all, which is also a very meaningful part of the impact that gets created through products like that.
Awesome, awesome. I think that should be a game changer to streamline, what is technically still largely unorganized, right?
Yeah.
So, and given the numbers, basically, I think India is about numbers, right? People numbers, and that makes it a more challenging game.
If we can get the product working in India, we can get it working everywhere. So
Absolutely, undoubtedly. Yeah. So, Mike, I'll stay with you.
Yeah.
So, the startup culture, in India is very vibrant, thriving, and a lot of it, I think, has been contributed over the last 10, 15 years. And Uber really played a large role in that. I think it was the game-changing role where the app economy just took off overnight, and every other player worth his salt, young or not so young either, kind of had to jump into the fray. So how do you think now Uber in itself, being such a large organization worldwide, is kind of fostering this culture, and what are the key things you would be looking at in terms of where this startup culture is really headed?
Yeah, I think this is one big, large community, right? We both take from it, we contribute back to it. So I'll talk about both aspects of it, how we benefit from it and how we contribute to it. So in terms of benefiting from it, I was talking about earlier, that there has been such a big shift in the outlook of tech talent in India. And a big part of that is the startup culture that has taken off in the last 10 years or so. It has created that. One, I think it has definitely given an edge from a skills perspective of how well informed and how up to speed people are with the technologies. But separately, I think it has added the skill of dealing with ambiguity, taking on challenges for which the solutions are not entirely clear, and being able to sort of craft solutions and approaches to those very hard problems. I think that is the biggest differentiator for me that I've seen happen over the last decade, and we have benefited from that tremendously because it's the same talent group of people that come in and help build us build products. With respect to how we have been sort of contributing to this pool, again, a lot of great startups, not just in India but across the world, have been created by Uber alumni, people who sort of saw how Uber goes about in really unstructured problems and spaces and create solutions. I think that creates that level of belief in people who work here, that oh yeah, I can go in and solve problems separately by myself, and so it's really amazing to see Uber alumni going outside creating those new startups across the world. And the other part is Uber is also extremely active on the open source front, where we have created tons of technologies which have now become the de facto in the industry. And these open source technologies and products play such a huge role in the startup ecosystem because when you're trying to create a startup in the first week, you don't want to be writing big checks to Microsoft and others like to use their technologies. Like having like the state-of-the-art software available to you so that you can get going is a big part of it. So that's how I see our relationship with the startups.
Sure. That aptly said. I mean, you just stated what everybody already knows in terms of the cost effectiveness of trying to be not so proprietary anymore, right? So great, Ankit. Kind of trying to understand. All of us here unanimously agree that India is now at the forefront of creating the culture of leadership as well, right? We got out of this back office mold, or we've journeyed from there. So what are the things you think are the key factors in terms of looking at learning and development seriously and looking at sponsorship programs? So what do you think are the key elements of fostering this? And I think you would be best poised to answer this as well. So directing this to you.
I think at Uber, we have started with the grassroots program to, when you onboard, when you come into the company, there's a flagship education program which focuses on democratizing how Uber works. So the first thing you get to learn is the end-to-end of Uber. What are the different parts of technology groups? What does each component do? How things work? A walkthrough of it, right? It's like a series of learning programs where you learn about actually how Uber works, like what are like actual technologies that power the end-to-end. And we start over there. We enable people to learn the big picture first, like understand that big picture, and then start focusing on your domain areas where you start contributing, you start giving back to the teams that you're focusing on. And through the course of your journey at Uber, we build a lot of these mentorship programs, allyship, employee research groups, etc., that enable you to excel at what you're doing. Like the strong foundation that we start with through our onboarding, and all of these additional resource groups that are available to you to get help, to figure out how to accelerate, to up-level your career, that enables every engineer to succeed in their role. And along with all of these, we have also have targeted programs that we want to enable people to come back to the industry. For example, we have this returnship program which enables women who have taken career break to come back and take the whole opportunity to learn things that they have done before, use that leverage to build that experience again and contribute to Uber. So all of those things combined actually play a very vital role in the success of an engineer at Uber.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. So I would kind of phrase a similar question to you, Praveen, on either side of the spectrum here. So being an engineer is not just about writing top-notch coding, it's about the right environment. He just broached that, Ankit just brought that up, and a lot of, ambient factors. It's about noise cancellation also at some level in terms of, kind of creating the right space for talent to grow. So how does that tie back to leadership eventually?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. No, I think, by the way, so writing code is very important, the right code. What I call that as table stakes, right? The least common denominator, right? That definitely has to be there. But beyond that, to be successful at Uber or any of these product-driven companies, you got to have further other skills like being accountable, like ownership, and being able to collaborate and work with each other, right? I think that concept is something that's not stressed well, which is in academics, like you do your work, right? You do on your own, but in companies like this, you're supposed to come, collaborate, work with each other, help each other, and then because ultimately you're delivering a product, right? It's a little bit of mind shift that needs to come, and you got to be able to do that really well to be able to survive and actually flourish here. And the last is communication, right? Being able to communicate your thoughts fluently and influence others is very important to grow. All this combined together is what I call leadership in a way. And it's not like you should be a master coming into these things, right? It's not possible, right? You put into college like the certain way of doing it and you suddenly come here. And what we offer here is an environment for you to learn and grow in these different aspects. And that combined together makes you a better leader, right? And then that lets you to do bigger things anyway. So that's what Uber offers.
Sure, sure. So we've come to a place where we've kind of had one sense of your views around various aspects of life at Uber and engineering problems that you think, can kind of resonate with audiences, young people who are part of our audiences today. So I've been, checking for questions coming in from the audiences, which is why I've been, kind of running my eyes through for a while now. A couple of interesting things that have really come in. So possibly I will ask this question to Mayank. Mayank, for a country as diverse as India, there's a question that's come in, and the first thing that asks, and I'm presuming that this is something I should have also asked you, but somebody there has taken the lead. How easy or difficult is it to scale through something that you launch? Okay, so it's not just about the fancy tier 1s, but there's tier 2, tier 3. So how does scaling really work for a market like India?
Yeah, really great question. I'm glad you asked it. So, yeah, I'll take a step back into like how scaling we usually talk about, like in industry at large, what is scaling at Uber, and what it means for India. So prior to Uber, I was at Facebook, where again, highly scaled product, but what scaling a product usually meant at Facebook was that you launch something, you see the signals of the usage, and then scaling meant largely capacity planning, being able to take on traffic that just like horizontally scales to be able to meet the demand. At Uber, scaling means something entirely different, because while our product, the thing about like Uber as a product is that it's a highly local product. What you see as Uber in Bangalore is very different from what Uber is in London, what it is in San Francisco. And so when we build these products, if something works in one city, doesn't mean that you can just take it and like make it available worldwide and it will just work. We have to really take it like city by city, understand what are the local constraints of each of these different cities, both from a regulation perspective, what is the driver behavior, what is the consumer requirements. So for example, bus. We would have never thought about like bus as a product in the United States, but like when you start to understand like a particular geography like India, you realize that our regular suite of products is not going to cut it. Like the consumer demand is very different, the cities are very different, and so we have to innovate and like figure out that what is the right product. And then again, like when you build a product like bus, what does it mean to scale it? Like can you just deploy the same solution in Delhi and like think that it'll work? No. So we have to build products in a way that like the core technology is the same, but how do we enable each of our like local ops people in Delhi, in Bangalore, to be able to fine-tune the product themselves to make it like fit the needs of the cities. That's what scaling at Uber really means. That how do you build shared technology that powers the whole world, but in a way that like that we can tailor the product for every single city to find the product market fit and like and scale like that.
Sure. So it's as you rightly said that there's no one shop stop, that, or a one size fits all rather, that really works in a market like India. I think it's a far from homogeneous space, so to speak. There's one more interesting, question that's come in, and Ankit, I think best poised to answer this. So there are diverse tasks that engineers really need to look at, code development, testing, maintenance, all of it while ensuring that quality is at the forefront of the narrative. So what really keeps work exciting for engineers at Uber and for all of us, who are part of this discussion today? So there's something that people want to know here. And also, what would you also want to share in terms of some of the breakthrough technologies that are exciting for you right now? What typically are you looking at and working at right now?
Absolutely. So I think and as an engineer, we love to build things. Like we want to build new products, new platforms, new infrastructure components, etc. The one thing that Uber kind of fosters is this understanding of how do you build reliably, how do you build a quality product for your consumer, and how do you keep learning from the feedback that you get from your consumers, from your cross-functional teams, etc. And that kind of environment fosters a very different kind of engineering in general itself, where you're constantly learning, you're constantly adapting. And it brings in a different set of exciting problems on a daily basis. Like on a daily basis, you have like a feedback loop coming in on the products that you're shipping out, on the platforms you're building. Mayank talked a lot about building this foundational product or foundational layer of our platforms. We focus a lot on building that common components that power our mobility business, delivery business, and then building that layer of configurability or adaptability that will easily transform the product in a different behavior across the world. And for that, it requires, like, once you build something, going to your consumers, listening to them, whether it's working for them, bringing it back, then building the right amount of configurability in your system, and then scaling it out. And the scaling it out, as Mayank explained, it's all about deploying the right technology in the market based on the consumer behavior over there. And doing that at scale and managing that complexity is the actual hard part of engineering. Like when you have like every airport in India very different in a way, and then you have to manage the airport technology and how do we dispatch drivers at each airport differently, and managing that level of complexity as an engineer, sometimes it's hard, and that's the kind of problems we take on as well. Let's take on those kind of problems, figure out the right way to model that complexity, and doing that at scale. Now, the second part of your question, which is, what are the recent advancements in technology? And I think we all know AI has accelerated a lot in the last few years, especially in the last few quarters, I would say. And some of those things are really exciting, especially for a developer. Like as an engineer, I'm super excited about what AI can do for me to make me more productive. You have fixed time in a day, and the amount of things that you want to do is a lot. At Uber, I figured out that time is a commodity, and you have to balance it really well. And AI is one of those things that is super interesting to make you do more in the less amount of time that you have. And I feel like that's going to be a table stake in how developers work in the long term, for sure.
Sure. I mean, this is fairly serendipitous that you brought in AI here, aptly, because there is something interesting that's come up about generative AI, which is the flavor of the season. So, Praveen, I'll direct this to you. So, how are you really looking to deploy Gen AI as a part of the development process? How is the integration going to happen? And what are the top 3 things you think Gen AI is going to bring in to change Uber's focus areas going forward?
No, I think, again, you aptly said season, right? It's, I call this
it's very serendipitous.
Season 2, episode 1
yeah.
of AI is going on right now.
Yes.
No, this is real, by the way. This is a transformational time. One thing I would generally say is, there has been some transformations that happened during my lifetime, like moving to mobile and so forth. So this is one of them for sure. And this is the time to adapt. If, for all the engineers listening, the way you develop is completely changing. So you got to get ahead of it. Otherwise, you'll be left behind. So that's one of the things. I'd say at Uber, AI in general has been something we have always adopted right from the beginning. Right? If you think of our matching and pricing algorithms, when I said when you hit that button, things have to happen right there. Right? All those things are powered by AI or mapping technology, the routing and ETA calculations. All these are powered by AI and ML models, right? And fraud and risks, rules that identifying in different parts of the world and so forth. And data is the most critical component for this, right? And we have that. And having said that, the generative AI is something that has been an accelerated feature of AI that has come recently. And we look at it from 3 different buckets, right? One is, we got about 5,000 plus engineers, right? As Ankit said, our goal is to make all the 5,000 plus engineers as productive as possible and as exciting as possible for them to actually work on it. I have been an engineer. There's a lot of boilerplate custom stuff I used to be. That's the most boring things you do. And then the actual fun part is actually building things. And now, with this new generative AI world, that's all things are going to go away, right? And how we do code reviews, how we do testing, and all these things are going to change. And that's what we call as developer productivity ecosystem, right? And developer tools, like how we test our mobile apps and so forth. And the second bucket is the platforms that we build, like the customer service tools, right? How we help our earners to resolve their grievances really fast and accurately in a fashion, right? And in the right of grievances and so forth. There's a huge work that's happening with the generative AI space. And the third is the fun and exciting, cool products that we are actually able to build. Like recently we launched on our Uber Eats, which is not in India, but an AI, generative AI way to actually chat and discover the amazing new recipes or dishes that you might not have tried out, right? And simple things like you could say reorder something that you liked last week and so forth. So it's a big opportunity, but you got to be careful to deploy these things in the right places. You don't want to just overdo it as such. Anyway.
Absolutely. So I'll stay with you for a bit here. So Ankit spoke a little about diversity, women at Uber. So could you, and you, you sponsor the program as well in the US. So could you tell us a little about it? Because that's a big thing, comeback careers or getting, the gender disparity, balancing out the equation. I think these are like major preoccupations worldwide and more so in India as well. So could you just tell us a little more about that?
No, I think it's. By the way, this is something we can talk all day. I'm super passionate. Like all these folks are very passionate about it. We are very deeply involved for a very long time. And there's the personal things, right? The things that you just said about women taking career breaks. Like my wife took a big career break as well, and that really impacted her, honestly. And then I seen what she's capable of, but just because that career break happened, actually put her back in a way. And we in India have this program where we actually return to work program where we are able to get, and we have very successful people here coming in and actually building amazing work. I met a few of them recently. And overall, our goal is to create the opportunities and actually help them discover their potential along the way. And we have various programs like sponsorships, right? We help them pair up with senior folks to help them discover things, and then mentorship programs as such. And then we spend a lot of time with career growth for what that full potential could be. And yeah, it's a worldwide program, but each of the sites had their own chapters and so forth. So I'm a sponsor for women for US and Canada as such, and we do a lot of great work from this angle.
Sure. Just digressing a bit here because something has come in, and I think Mayank, directing this to you. So what technologies, what is the top 3 things accordingly? I'm just kind of trying to make sense of the wording here. So what technologies are you going to sort of look at while hiring? And what attitudes, top of the recall, would be your focus or priority when you look at a potential candidate? This is for you.
Yeah.
Some of the tough ones are coming in your direction. Is it something to do with your seating?
I don't think it's tough for him. These are all easy things for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So see, like from a technology standpoint, the first thing, like just to set the base, we are a product company. We build end-to-end products, so which essentially means that we'll continue to look for like best-of-class mobile engineers, back-end engineers, front-end engineers. Like so, all of those things are quite important for us. However, if I were to sort of say something of that may be a little bit new to the flavor, is that we're seeing this. You just spoke about like Gen AI or like. So while I think a core part of our business machinery around pricing and matching has always been machine learning driven, what we are seeing an increase. Even the consumer products are now becoming more and more data reliant, more and more AI reliant. And so with respect to hiring the skills, like some of the key attributes that we're looking for is people who are just good with data. And like, so see, like machine learning is one part of it, but understanding the principles of data architecture, understanding, how to build products which are, how to see products as data products, because ultimately we are, you can look at it and say that we are a data company. So those are the aspects that I would say that people who are data savvy, people who are analytical in nature, exposure to, product engineers, but who know how to stitch together machine learning models to sort of serve those products. I think those are the key things I would say.
Sure. Just running through the list here. Okay, there's one question, and I think, Praveen, you're still best poised to answer this, though all the three of you can easily field this. It's about how Uber really changed the taxi monopoly, and of course right now it's public domain knowledge as well, this question that more and more cities around the world, the taxi fleets are kind of aligning themselves more and more with the Uber, network. So what are the major breakthroughs in the taxi space as well, which is still the traditional core space from where you came in? So some of it which you can kind of state top of the recall. Of course, we spoke about it during the course of the conversation, but if you could just reiterate it, please.
No, I think this is a very interesting progression in a way, right? I think our goal is to being able to expose Uber trips to every taxi driver around the world, right? And through that process, building trust with our taxi partners as such. And I think our ambitious goal is all the taxis around the world, every taxi around the world will be on Uber by 2025. That's pretty ambitious.
Very ambitious, yes.
But actually we have made significant progress over the last few years. Just to plug in, the work for integrating taxis is done in Bangalore. I have to plug that in anyway. And we have about 30,000 plus taxis already plugged in into Uber. And we are in various countries like Poland, Sweden, Hong Kong, South Korea, and recently we signed an agreement with New York Taxis and LA, SF. So these are pretty big in nature, right? So that's our goal, right? And then we are really going after, we already made significant progress there. But it's a pretty complex tech problem, and I'll explain why, right? The way Uber works is there's a driver app and the rider app, and there's Uber in between. They communicate with each other, right? It's pretty simple from that angle. Now with taxis come in, like our goal is to have the driver app being adopted by all the taxi drivers. But to accelerate, we actually had to integrate their apps, whatever they had, into our ecosystem, and then work with our Uber and the rider. That's a pretty complex problem because you can imagine the heterogeneity of each of them, like old tech to new tech and all these aspects of it, right? So we had to innovate a lot to make those integrations seamless as such. But at the end of the day, integrating all these things, but giving the same experience to our drivers, like their upfront destinations or pricing that they can see that they wouldn't get in the regular taxi world. But for the riders, whether you use a taxi or Uber Premier or Go, whatever it is, you get the same seamless features, that is the payment features and the safety and customer service tools, and everything is all there for you. So to solve that, that's a pretty complex problem in a way. So that's where we are, and we are on the way to get to all the taxis on our platform by 25.
Excellent. I think and the happy coincidences, a lot of deadlines in, even from a government perspective are timed somewhere along to the year 2025. Seems like a magic year, the EV
it's not that far,
transition,
just 2 years away.
Yeah, the EV transition and so on, and many other interesting developments are also sort of coincidentally tying to Uber's ambitious plan. So I think that's more power to your plans. So Ankit, Uber kind of has spoken a lot about green. So how does engineering talent and green, what's the message that goes out? How do these two get married to each other?
I think sustainability has been at the core of our engineering. I think Mayank also talked about that. We're working with cities to understand how can we help with, from a technology perspective, in streamlining how cities work. A lot of governments are investing very heavily on green tech, like EV fleets across India, or even London has taken up a similar goal. US has a similar goal of 2030, etc. And what's important for us is to understand what's the right technology that we need to build to be ready to take that the jump towards EV seamlessly. There are quite a few challenges that we have to figure out as well. Like as the technology on the battery side is advancing, we have to figure out how do we switch our matching algorithms to get the drivers in the right place, figure out how much battery they have remaining, route their routes in a more efficient routes, like which consume less power, less energy, etc. And all of those things combined with the platform that we have built already, I think we're in a very sweet spot to accelerate when all of the different partners in this space are ready to get together and move ahead as well. We've already made some partnerships. We are trying to figure out how can we help all the different authorities, etc., to realize their goals as well.
Sure. Mayank, so any specific example of a product feature that was built in India and kind of was scaled across successfully? Particular example.
Okay. I think there are lots of it.
We need to kind of crystallize into one.
Yeah, I'm trying to sort of think of something that is going to have a good recall with the audience here. So let me talk about some of the more infrastructural things that power a lot of our products. So we have these. So we have these systems through which we onboard earners onto the platform, for us as Uber, like one of the strategic advantages or strategic moats, as you say, is that we are a multidimensional company with respect to the kind of gigs that are done on this platform, that allows us to be able to shape our supply wherever the demands are and help people make a lot more money on the platform. However, we have never been Uber grew from the UberX days and continue growing like that. So we actually never built our systems in a way that we are able to leverage this mode to the full. This is when we have this project that we internally call the One Earner project, and what has happened on that project is that folks here in collaboration with folks in the US as well dreamt about how would we change the entire engine underneath Uber to actually have earners be free flowing across a number of gigs that they do on the platform. It has been over the last year and a half, we have actually pulled that off almost to entirety at this point. It is not something that people would see in the consumer app, but the impact of this is felt by drivers across the world, that they just have access to a lot more opportunities today. And from an engineering standpoint, these are the kind of things that are most exciting for engineers, that while the ship is running, you're able to go in and change the engine to an entirely new set of capabilities without anybody ever even noticing that anything happened to the ship. So that's
yeah, the seamlessness of it all. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think people are warming up now and just questions are coming in at this point of time, but in the interest of time per se, we'll filter out and maybe kind of get in as much insights from you. Praveen, a question for you here. How do you approach building a product for a market like the US vis-a-vis a developing market like India versus Brazil? I think very pertinent. Yeah. And glad someone's asked that, because I would have thought people would have asked something more self-centered or self-absorbed, but they're asking larger questions. So that's a great thing.
No, I think this is something we talk about a lot, because we have teams in Sao Paulo as well. I travel a lot, and a lot of leaders travel to just feel it, because it's really hard to sit in San Francisco and look at the decks and experiences from them. As I said, this is a very physical product, and you want to come and feel it, right? Every time I brought leaders here, they came in here and they went back and solved a few problems, right? Especially for India, you can imagine all the different issues I have. I think we are really good at solving problems in the US for sure, right? And building the products there. I'll give you a couple of examples. Back then, when India, Uber was pretty much credit card and digital payments driven, and in India, as you know, cash was a pretty big deal, right? And we were pretty adamant that no, we wouldn't do only credit cards as such, right? But then at some point we decided that, okay, for India, we're going to do cash. But it's a pretty complex product, right? How do you make the cash and then collect the cash from the driver, and this whole loop has to go, and then they take the next steps as such. So that product, we built it specifically for India to start with, right? And then it worked amazingly. right? In hindsight, it kind of makes sense what is there to think
It
about
flipped the whole thing completely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that really led to a big growth in India. And then we kind of took that product and actually launched it in other countries where cash actually makes sense. Actually. So this is an example of not building globally, but that has to work locally in first place, right? So that's one example. And the other example I'd say is pin dispatch, which is you go to airports, there's a bunch of Uber cars, and we sometimes feel like our matching algorithms are pretty amazing to match, but there's a bunch of Uber cars, you can just go to a car and then share the pin and then match and go, right? That's we're used to that kind of way of actually hailing taxis or anything as well. So then that worked really well that we scale it to in airports that in other countries that actually matters as well. And specifically in Sao Paulo and Brazil, safety is one of the biggest aspect there, right? Which is not as big of a problem in other countries, but then we actually build a lot of tech for Brazil for safety reasons. And it works amazingly that that's all available. So safety is one of our biggest these are a few examples.
Oh yeah, we can really connect the dots and trace all of these milestones where Uber had to make changes locally, switching from the credit card mode to the PIN number, which was not there earlier in the initial version of Uber, and other players in the fray had already started giving PIN numbers, so Uber changed accordingly. So I think these are fantastic inputs. So great. There are, we've kind of tried to filter out the questions as much as possible to ensure that there are no redundancies or repetitions and get the best out of the three of you. So great. Thanks so much for giving us your time, and I'm hoping our audiences today have taken something away for themselves and also understood Uber in a larger sense of the word. There's so much of public domain information. So I guess this puts some sense to the madness, the chaos of information that even floats around about organizations such as Uber. So great, thank you so much. And that was Praveen Nepali Naga and Mayank Kumar, Ankit Srivastava from Uber joining us on today's discussion, Building from India for the World. I hope you got a lot of insights useful to yourself and to develop a broader understanding of Uber. Thank you for joining us.